Are you hyped for Splatoon 3? Because I know that I am. It's all that's been on my mind recently. So I figured why not take a deep look into the Splatoon franchise as a whole, from early development to what we currently know about Splatoon 3. And yes, I know, for some strange reason, I can't pronounce 3 properly. I mean, apparently I've been saying it wrong my whole life. And I didn't even know until last year when I uploaded the Splatoon 3 reaction video. And everyone was commenting, making fun of me. Look, believe me, I tried after that video to learn how to pronounce it properly, and I can't do it. It's too hard. I give up, okay? I'm just going to keep pronouncing it as F-R-E-E, and yeah, we're just going to go from there. Quickly before we start the video off, we are so close to hitting 2K subscribers. It would mean the world to me if you could subscribe. If you love Splatoon, if you love Nintendo in general, trust me, you'll love this channel. And let's take a deep dive into the history of Splatoon.
Sunrise.
Splatoon officially started development in mid to late 2013. It was being directed by Yusuke Amano, who had recently just directed New Super Mario Bros. 2, and Tsubasa Sakaguchi, who had just finished up on Nintendo Land. And it was being produced by Hisashi Nogami, famous for the Animal Crossing series. What a team, eh? It was their goal to create a brand new IP, as it had been years since we'd seen anything fresh. They thought of many different concepts, 70 to be exact, but they continued to go back to one particular idea: a 4v4 third-person shooter based around turf wars. The three decided to take this idea and run with it, and just like that, early development for Splatoon had officially begun. Well, if you can even call this Splatoon, as this looked a lot different to the Splatoon we know and love today. The first concept featured black and white blocks of tofu spraying ink at each other. Yeah, you heard me right. The whole turf war theme and spraying ink idea is here, but that's about it. They also seem to focus a bit more on the gamepad idea, having the tofu appear only on the gamepad, and the TV showed a sort of top-down view of the map with the blocks of tofu blending in with the paint, so you couldn't really see them. The basic mechanics and idea was set, but a lot more work was needed to refine the overall gameplay. And let's be honest, Splatoon wouldn't be as successful as it was today if the main characters were literal blocks of tofu. And of course the team knew this, so they were hard at work thinking of what the main characters could be for this new IP. They needed something unique to catch people's attention, all while relating to the game's base mechanics. They went from generic humans to even robots, and when they had the chance to show this game off to Miyamoto, he liked the basic idea, but wasn't set on the design of the characters. They just didn't stand out. He of course suggested Mario characters, typical Miyamoto behavior, which was actually considered for some time, believe it or not, but then thankfully was scrapped because this just looks odd. Really odd. After some time, they came up with one of the last designs that almost made the final cut. These rabbit looking characters. The three seemed pretty set on this. They even had the rabbits wear matching t-shirts to the ink so they could hide in it and everything, but the overall feedback from other developers was pretty negative. Why are rabbits shooting ink? What do rabbits even have to do with ink? It just made zero sense. So they went back to an older idea that they originally had, having these characters be squids. Squids and ink are actually related to each other. So the concept artists got to work, and after some final adjustments, they finally came up with the perfect solution. Instead of having these creepy looking squid things, have a humanoid figure that can actually transform into a squid, which allows the players to swim around in the ink and climb walls. Perfect. They got the green light, and Nintendo EAD frantically went to work, as they only had a few months before E3 2014 and they wanted to have a demo ready to show off to the public. With them having such a limited time, they only managed to have one map in this demo as well as a few weapons available, but people were impressed with how vibrant and fun this game actually was. After receiving some more feedback, the team went back to development, with the aim of releasing the game in 2015. Closer and closer to release, Splatoon went through some really good marketing, and just a few weeks before release, Nintendo released a global test fire, giving players the chance to experience this game for themselves. After playing this global test fire, hype was at an all-time high, and on the 28th of May 2015, the game finally released to the public. Despite releasing on the Wii U, the game still sold incredibly well, all things considered. In just under a month, it had reached 1 million copies sold, and for its lifetime sales, it raked in 4.95 million copies. This was it. Nintendo's new golden IP. The first entry to Splatoon was very well received, having lots of different content at launch, the main game mode of course being the 4v4 Turf Wars. It launched with 5 different maps, lots of different weapons, ranked battles which were actually added a few weeks later, local multiplayer, lots of different clothing options, and a single player campaign. In this story mode you assume the role of Agent 3. You're working for Captain Cuttlefish. To cut a long story short, Inkopolis' main power supply is stolen, the Great Zapfish, and it is your goal to retrieve it. One of my favourite parts of the game is actually Inkopolis itself. I just love how vibrant and full of life it is. Seeing all the other Inklings, all the billboards and colours, truly makes you feel like you're in this world. I also love the unique cast of characters, from Annie and Mo the clownfish who has beef with absolutely anything that breathes, Sheldon who speaks way too much, Krusty Sean, Judd, the Idols, Callie and Marie, and the little news updates they do whenever you first boot up the game. It's incredible, but it doesn't end there, as after launch Splatoon received lots of monthly updates, adding brand new weapons, new gear, private battles, squad battles, new maps, and of course Splatfests. Monthly events where you pick a side and aid your team to victory. There were 16 of these in total with various different topics. Some of the more unexpected ones were Autobots vs Decepticons and SpongeBob vs Patrick. The final Splatfest took place on the 22nd of July 2016, which was Callie vs Marie. This Splatfest in particular was special because not only was it the final one, but it decided the future events for the next Splatoon game. With Splatoon releasing towards the end of the Wii U's life and a new console being on the horizon, many wondered what would happen. Would the game even still be active? But Nintendo wasted no time. In the Switch reveal trailer, Splatoon itself was shown, and there were debates on whether or not this will be a new game entirely or just a port, especially with it only being a little over a year since the first game released. But in the January 13th presentation, it was indeed confirmed that this was a sequel. Development had started for Splatoon 2 in October of 2015, just a few months after the first game launched. They really wasted no time. A global test file was available again, this time between the 24th and 26th of March. And then the game released on the 21st of July 2017. This was huge for the Splatoon franchise. It was reaching a much bigger audience with it releasing on a much more popular console. Splatoon 2 took place 2 years after the final Splatfest in the first game. We all know Marie won over Callie, and this caused them not to really talk anymore. When Marie returned to Inkopolis, she discovered the Great Zapfish was stolen again. Marie takes up the role as Agent 2 and recruits you as Agent 4. To go and investigate. Agent 4 makes his way through the Octo Canyon, fighting off the Octarians. You then discover that Callie is actually being brainwashed by the Octarian. Callie is freed and the Squid Sisters are back together, help Agent 4 defeat Octavio, and return the Great Zapfish to Inkopolis. The sequel also added the new Salmon Run game mode, new weapons, new clothes, new maps, Pearl and Marina as the new idols, and lots of little small improvements. Splatoon 2 sold a lot more than the first game. It's currently sitting at 13 million copies sold worldwide and is one of the best selling games on the Switch. In 2018 we received the Octo expansion, the first ever paid DLC for the series. This added an entirely new single player campaign, and in my opinion is the best single player content we have received in the entire series. The gameplay and story was just much more engaging than the base campaign, and it was pretty challenging too. And once you beat the main story, you unlock the new Octoling characters and can play as them in multiplayer. Like the first game, Splatoon 2 received countless free updates and a lot more Splatfests than the first game. The final Splatfest was Chaos vs Order, which again decided the direction of the story for the next game. This took place on the 18th of July, but to many surprise, this actually wasn't the final Splatfest. It was announced on the 21st of April 2020 on Twitter that a one-off Splatfest will be happening. This was around the time a special demo was released. Why this happened, we aren't too sure. Maybe it was because of the pandemic and everyone being locked indoors and the huge spike in Switch sales thanks to Animal Crossing. But it was a nice surprise, but an even bigger surprise was that they continue to have even more Splatfests. 2 more to be exact, before the real final Splatfest, Super Mushroom vs Superstar happened on the 15th of January to celebrate the 35th anniversary of Super Mario. Since then, there hasn't been any major updates, but Splatoon 2 has remained active. Many thought that we wouldn't see another game until the next system. However, Splatoon 3 was announced for the Switch at the February 2021 Direct with a 2022 release. Since then, we've had a few trailers showing us a look at the much grander single player, the usual new weapons, we get a look at this sweet bow, new maps are shown, new abilities like the grapple and this metal crab thing, some new mechanics allowing you to dodge in the air while in squid mode, and much more. The game was slated for summer and it's still technically coming out in summer, but it definitely switched places with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. At the time of recording this video, we are less than a month away from its September 9th release, and it's only been a few hours after we got the Splatoon 3 Direct. We got plenty of new info, such as the new Splatoon weapon, which looks really, really cool. The new idols, don't know how I feel about the other two, but big man! And lastly, we finally have confirmation of a test fire coming the 27th of August. This game is looking incredible, and now I am even more hyped than I was before. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am going to eat some tofu.
Sunrise.